Welcome to the Burgundy and Gold Knuckleheads podcast. As always, you know who's riding shotgun in season, out of season. My main man, Reggie. What's going on, Reg?
What up? What up? What up?
Hey, I said in season, out season. When reality, for you and I and some fans, it's there's not a day that we're
Always,
not in the season.
it's always in season for us, man.
It always in season.
It may be a little slow, football wise,
Right.
but we're always in season. Though,
Yeah.
right?
If we win the Super Bowl next year, that following Monday, it's the next season, right?
Hell no, you crazy?
Well, after Reggie recovers from his hangover, we'll go to Tuesday. On Tuesday, we start looking forward to the next season after the Super Bowl.
That's a lie. Not for me. I'm not gonna tell that lie. First of all, I'm gonna be off the Monday after the Super Bowl.
Are you okay?
Win or lose, I'm gonna be off.
Okay.
If we win,
yeah,
I don't know if it's next season until we kick off again.
It's going to take you that long to recover.
Look, I'm champ, baby. I'm champ all year. Until somebody take it down, I'm champ.
The champ is here.
Exactly. So we go through the draft, free agency, training camp. Man, look, hey, we still champ.
Yeah.
So
yeah, won't be able to tell you.
It's been a long time, man. It's been a long time since I've been able to boast to be that my team is Super Bowl champ. So I will definitely be relishing in that more than a day.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Would we've touched on some of this before, kind of related to that. Would you go buy a Super Bowl champion shirt or hat or something like that? Because potentially it could only be a one season hat or one season shirt. I'm not that kind of person, but because it's been so long, I might have to make the exception. I'm asking you.
Well, I think you already knew the answer, and the answer is no. I'm not gonna buy a Super Bowl shirt or Super Bowl hat. Now, with one exception.
Okay.
If all of a sudden I look at the gear and it's fire.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, nah, I like that. But just because it says Super Bowl champion, whatever, right, I'm not buying it. But if all of a sudden they come out and that year Super Bowl gear is hot,
right,
then I will probably get it. But if it's just because it says Super Bowl champion, no, I'm not going to get it.
Okay. Well, and
does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I understand. And from some of the stuff that I've seen this year, a lot of the people in the DC area have gotten creative themselves, getting on the Commanders bandwagon and making their own shirts. Right? It's not licensed. It doesn't. They're skirting around licensing.
They're not skirting around anything. They're just doing it.
But some of it is skirting it, right? You can say Washington on there. You just can't use the logo. You can use something that looks like Jaden Daniels and have a 5 on it without saying what it is, right? And they've been successful. And I bought one thing. I don't know if you've bought anything, but these are the kind of things that are getting creative, and maybe we'll see something like that when we win the Super Bowl next year. And
And I did buy some stuff. I bought some stuff that I know is not marketed by the team, but people got their little side hustles and advertising on social media, and it's cool. And I've bought some stuff. But I don't think anyone is being creative. I just think people there's no one out there that's policing it, and it's just buying it. Now, no one is. I don't think these people can go out to the stadium and sell some of that stuff, at least not on the ground. But I think if advertising online, I think ownership and people just happy that the fans are back and they're excited and all those kind of things. And let me just say this, man. I've heard many times. Now I'm being nitpicky here, Ken. So let me be clear. I know I'm being a little nitpicky. But this season, we kept hearing media. We heard players say it, and then even Josh Harris, the owners, talking about how they're bringing the fans back. They're waking the sleeping giant and bringing the fans back. Hey, man, we never left.
Right.
It feels a little disrespectful to us that have been here the whole time. We never left. Some people left. I get that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fans that have stuck by this team through all the bad. We didn't leave just because the name changed. We didn't leave because the team was losing. We didn't leave because we hate Dan Snyder. So some of us have been here for the whole time, man, and again, I wasn't offended by it. I don't want to make it sound like it was that big of a deal, but it was just kind of one of those things like, hold on, man. Some of us have been here the whole time.
Right.
So, the excitement is back, and I get that kind of thing, but yeah, man, like some of us has been here. We didn't go nowhere.
Absolutely. But
and I know that's not what they mean when they say it.
Correct. Right.
But when they say it, it's almost as if a lot of people left and then come. No, we've been here, man. There's a lot of folks that have been here that are stuck by this whole thing.
Well, look, we know all of a sudden in the playoffs this year, we saw faces we hadn't seen all season. Some people in a couple of years, some people ever. And maybe they just found out, as the excitement comes, they're new to the area where we are. But at the same time, over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, we've seen fans that I would say were regulars, and all of a sudden, like a light switch, they were gone. And I know they're in the area, right? So, some of them I was friends with on social media, and they're gone. They checked out. Hey, I'm not worried about them coming back, but those kind of people would have never left if we would have been winning, on a semi-consistent basis over the last 20 years. So I definitely get what Josh is saying, but you and I are diehard glutton for punishment Redskins Commanders fans. This is the first year we've had minimal pain, right?
Yeah. It's been it was an interesting season, man. I mean, we went on a ride as a fan. I don't know when the last time I've had this, and maybe ever, if I'm being completely honest, because during our heyday when we were winning, during the Joe Gibbs era, I was a young pup, right? I was young. And that was your team, you rooted for them, and you kind of, of course you win Super Bowls. You got a good team, you got a good head coach. Right. And then you go through this 30-year lull. And I'll be honest, even when we drafted RG3, I wasn't a fan of RG3's style, but we hadn't won, didn't have a lot of success for so long, and so we were starving as a fan base. So when he did come on board, and as a rookie, him and Alfred Morris and that team was rolling, you just went with it because we were excited. But as the season went on, I was like, if this guy doesn't change not only his style, but also improve as a passer, this wasn't going to last very long.
Correct.
Right? And we had talked about that. Now I was happy and excited because, again, we hadn't won in forever. But there was some concerns about whether this was sustainable long term. I don't feel that way with Jake Daniels.
Well, yeah. As you're saying that, it's funny. As you're saying that, yeah, 100%. We looked at RG3 and what he did his first year. Pretty remarkable. Had some flashy moments, but it was also, this guy needs to learn how to be an NFL quarterback, right? He needs to get comfortable in the pocket. He needs to be able to read second and third and not just take off running when things get bad. And honestly, those were things he never learned how to do. Right. If he did, he would have had a successful career. But at the same time, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, what does Jaden Daniels need to improve on? We want him to improve. We think he's going to still get better than he was this year, but realistically, again, we can start finding things that he gets better at, right? But if Jaden Daniels doesn't get any better, he's a hell of a quarterback here for the next 10 or 12 years, right? And there's zero doubt in my mind he will get better. I don't know where his ceiling can be as good of a season as he's had this year. I mean, you would think that the ceiling is within arm's reach already, But you never know. You never know. And the guy's work ethic and everything that he puts into it, he's one of the players that is going to reach his maximum potential. I don't have any doubt. I don't know what that is. Maybe he's already there and he'll stay there. But Jaden Daniels is going to reach his maximum potential.
Right. I mean, it's been well documented at this guy's work ethic. He's not satisfied with even everything that he's accomplished this year. And so all those things gives you hope to reach his maximum potential for what you're talking about. And the thing about Jake Daniels is there doesn't seem to be any holes in his game, but he will still work to improve as a NFL quarterback. And what gives us hope here is because there's not a lot of holes in his game, he has the ability to play at a high level on a consistent basis. And in the NFL, if you have a quarterback that is consistently playing at a high level for long periods of time, then you're always going to have an opportunity and a chance to be competitive every single year.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that I think excites fans, and to know that the future here is bright based on what we saw this year.
Yeah.
And now it's going to get tricky. And I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves. It'll get tricky when they have to pay him this enormous contract.
Yep.
And we've seen how it affects your team. We saw what it did in Buffalo, and we saw what it did in Kansas City. But somehow the organizations have been able to overcome that. But they were able to overcome it because the quarterback is consistently playing at a high level to offset some of that. You look at Dallas, they paid their quarterback, but the quarterback is not able to sustain that level of play. And so therefore, when he's not playing well, then the team is not playing well. But Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and the kid in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, they're playing at such a high level that it offsets the deficiencies of the roster, and yet they're still being able to be competitive and compete week in and week out. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%, 100%. And I think from Jaden Daniels' perspective, what you'll see is when it's funny when you hear quarterbacks that have been successful in the league, not just superstars, but just, quarterbacks who had a solid, 10, 12, 14-year career, when they are at the end of their career or outside of it, they talk about how, we've seen as example, Tony Romo, when he's on a broadcast, right? He sees how people are lined up and how the defense is moving, and he knows what they're doing already, right? I think that becomes second nature to you. You don't even think about it. I don't know that just from an experience perspective that Jaden is there. He maybe needs to think about it a little bit more and process it and just have an extra pause of what's going on. And not that he can't do it, but it's not just a second language to him. It's okay. Let me look. Okay. I see this. I see that. I think that's what it is. Okay. Now, ready, set, hut. Rather than just walking up and going, oh yeah, I know what that is. Okay, let's go.
And given his smarts and his IQ though, and the level in which he plays and the poise in which he plays with, once he gets down that part of the game, then the game is going to slow down for him even further, right?
Correct.
And that's the thing about this kid. You use Pat Mahomes' example. Pat Mahomes is just, his NFL IQ is just very high. And Jayden is, making the jump from the college to the NFL. And so now you get to see what NFL defenses look like. And at some point, that's why they say when players go for different teams, at the end of the day, there's only so many defenses or offenses you can run.
Right.
They just call it something different, and maybe they change the play up a little bit. And once you start seeing these defenses and understand how to beat that particular defense that they're in, then you know where to go with the ball and you just make the play. And that's how a guy like Tom Brady didn't need to be able to run a 4.2 40. He just knew where to beat the defense.
Right.
But that came with experience. He didn't know that at his first couple years in the league. But as he played, the more he played and the success he had, it came from being able to recognize the defenses and what they're doing. And as we talked about earlier, the study habits,
right,
the grind, what you put into it and what you get out of it. And so you're prepared. And Jayden, I think, will do all the things. And it's funny because everything that we say about Jayden, or everything that we hear about Jayden Daniels, you heard none of this when it came to RG3.
right.
RG3 was all about marketing, right? But by this time, he was already talking about his brand and his emblem and his logo.
Right.
Jayden Daniels just want to play football. But
Yeah.
RG3 was already on to the next, and how he's going to capitalize on his name, his brand, and creating that stupid logo.
Right. The and with that, for the success of Jayden Daniels, probably a lot of people know, but part of the importance of this with Jayden Daniels and a lot of young quarterbacks is Washington is keeping their entire coaching staff.
Yes, sir.
Which does wonders, right? It does wonders for a young team overall, developing team, both obviously at quarterback, but when you're trying to put in systems, it was a new system for everybody this year, right? The offense and defense all had a new system. And we talked about it. We know there's holes on this team, offensively and defensively. And now that everybody's played a full season together, the GM and coaches, they know those holes better than anybody, right? They've been, not only have those holes been exposed, but there may be even bigger
holes
that we don't realize that they've been doing a hell of a job covering up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so having that second year to fill those holes and other methods to get around their deficiencies, which every team has a deficiency, right? Whoever wins the Super Bowl has weaknesses, but you find ways to get around it. And coaching continuity, good coaching continuity, goes a long way in the NFL.
Yeah, I was extremely excited to hear that we were not losing any coaches, right? And I think most people felt like Cliff was coming back, simply because of all the reasons that's been talked about, right? The fact that he's having fun, the fact that he loves coaching Jayden, the fact that he's getting a head coaching salary as a coordinator, and all of the things. He's been revitalized and the fun is back and all those things, right? But to be able to now build upon the foundation that's been laid in this offense, Cliff coming back, and now Jayden doesn't have to worry about working with someone different. It's the same voice. It's things that they've learned. They can talk in the all season and talk about the things they did like, the things they didn't, and how they can make some changes. But they were not messing around, man, because whether it was coaches that decided to stay, Joe Witt and Cliff Kingsbury, and then there was coaches that other teams wanted to talk to, and the team denied them. So like the assistant quarterback coach, right? A guy that worked hand in hand with Jayden, David Blau, right? Heavily involved in the development of Jayden, working with Cliff. Because he's not a coordinator, the team can deny permission from other teams. Well, he was being touted by the Jets, and the Commanders denied the Jets the opportunity to talk to him because they wanted him to bring him back. Right. And whether that was because they see potential in David, or this is the succession plan to not if, but when Cliff leaves, they can promote quarterbacks coach to coordinator, or he becomes, instead of assistant, he gets some other role with the offense or something, but you keep him around. I mean, hell, for that matter, Cliff could take him. But at the end of the day, the Commanders denied the Jets the opportunity to do that. But just as important as the coaches are being kept, they kept the front office. The assistant general manager to Adam Peters, Lance Newmark, was at some point, I guess, talked to the Jets or whatever, but he decided to stay in Washington. So for those that don't know who Lance Newmark is, Lance Newmark was very critical in the success in building the roster and develop and drafting the roster that they have for the Lions. Everybody loved the Lions, right? all the draft picks that they got and the success they've had the past few years. And they lost both of their coordinators, the offensive and defensive. But the guy that helped put that team together is now our assistant GM.
Right.
And in 1 year, a team was looking at him to be their GM. But he stayed. He stayed. Yeah. So everybody stayed. And so they're going to run this thing back, man. And I couldn't be more excited about the continuity for once we have, to your point, it's not just coaching and continuity. It's good coaching, good front office with continuity.
Right. Yeah. It's I'm not going to say that the people don't want opportunities to, get promotions and increase not only your roles and responsibilities, but your paycheck too. And I don't know what is done or not done with, assistant GMs and assistant coaches and coordinators and all that. But, if Washington wants to keep them around, one thing they can do is just pay him a little bit more also, because there's no salary cap, right? Washington could pay the assistant GM more than the GM if they wanted to. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's one of those things that if you want to keep somebody around, and you think that just paying them more will keep them around from a coaching or front office perspective, you just do it.
Well, that's if they're looking for a raise or they're looking for an opportunity.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. But it's, again, it is, I'll go back even, 20 or 30 years. I was even saying this in the 90s, when the salary cap was going on. There's no reason to not have an excellent coaching staff on your team. Now, granted, you have to have good ownership and everything, but your front office, you can outbid somebody. You can pay more if you have an ownership that wants to do that, because again, it doesn't affect your salary cap. I know everybody has a margin that you need to be profitable in this league and make money and all that. And I'm not saying to throw away money, but if it costs a little bit more to get the right coaches and the right front office, you should be doing that as an organization. So,
yeah, no, I agree. Go ahead, Ken.
Well, I was going to transition and move on. And speaking of ownership, we heard from ownership this week, right? Ownership came out, and I don't know if the question was asked, if it was just a briefing or how it came about, but they talked about the Washington Commanders name.
It was asked.
But I don't know why he was up there in general to have it. But you and I have been on board trying to tell everybody for an extended amount of time, we're not going back, right? We may change the name, we may change logo, we may do whatever. We are not going back. And people can say, "Oh, it's forever for me." That's fine. That's you, right? But Harris came out and said, "Hey, we're winning as the Commanders. Everybody seems to be on board with it. It's becoming comfortable, especially when you're winning." It's going to be staying Commanders.
And we said that.
Yes.
But let's be clear. There was two arguments here. There was the going back to the old name crowd. And then there's the I hate the Commanders name, so we need to do a rebrand and go to something different. Right?
Right.
I stopped a long time ago trying to talk to anyone who stupidly thought that we were going to go back to the Redskins.
Right.
That the owner said that early on. What I had an issue with was, just like you came out and said we're not going to go back to the old name, then can you finally come out and say either you're going to rebrand or not? Let's put that to bed. So that lingered on for what seemed like 2 years. But finally, this week, he came out and said people are starting to embrace the name. It's becoming a mantra. The type of, they're looking for Commanders and then all of the stuff that comes with it. So they're not going to change the name. And so finally, people can move on from that as well. So we're not going back to Redskin, and going forward, we're going to be the Commanders. Now, there was talk about doing some rebranding, blending the old with the new, with uniforms and all of that kind of stuff. whatever, right? I'll be honest, man. Some guy on Twitter made a comment, and people were talking about it, and he didn't understand why everybody was gleeful about it. And I said, I don't know that people are gleeful and celebrating. I think people are just happy that we can finally put this issue to bed and stop beating a dead horse.
Right.
But me personally, I root for the team. I root for the players. I root for all of that stuff. I personally, man, for some reason, the logo, whether they make it a W or they come up with something else, the uniform, whether it needs a stripe on the helmet or a stripe on the pants, man, I don't give a damn about that stuff. I don't know why that is such a big deal for people, Ken.
Right.
To me, the only request I had when we were changing names is that they keep the colors because we're known as the burgundy and gold. After that, look, man, if you want to change the W or you want to add stripes and change the fonts on the numbers and the colors on the number, I don't care.
Right.
I truly don't care. But people, there's a group of people out there that seems to really care about that kind of stuff. And so now they're saying they want the uniform tweaked, rebranded, and all that kind of stuff. Hey, knock yourself out. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've said all along, I wasn't a fan of the Commander's name when it came out.
Neither was I.
But I was glad when they decided that they were sticking with burgundy and gold. They said, and they actually said that before they even said what the name was going to be, right? When they said they're going to change names and we're going to tell you in 18 months or whatever it was what the new name is going to be, and the big letdown reveal that Jason Wright put together. That it was Commander, but they had already said it was the burgundy and gold, and that was big for a lot of people,
and that was good enough for me at that point.
I would be open to a new logo instead of the W, or along with the W, just like the old Redskins are. They incorporated. I would like to use the W like that, but have a new logo. But the white jersey needs to be updated. I like the burgundy, right? Burgundy with white pants, burgundy with burgundy pants, burgundy with gold pants. I'm fine with any of that. The home jersey versus the away jersey is I don't know how they missed so much on the white away jersey. But
I don't care.
It's not that big of a deal.
For me, just win.
Yeah. Well, with winning in the off season is potential moves, right? We know this 53-man roster isn't going to be the same 53-man roster of this past season, going into next season.
How many free agents we have?
What's that?
You know how many free agents we have?
No, I don't know exactly. I remember seeing it, but I don't recall what it was.
29.
Well, to be added,
that's like half the roster, right?
Yeah. Well, to be added to the 29, or potentially be part of the 29, where the Commanders were never, last 3 or 4 years, anytime there was a big name trade rumor or big name free agent, Commanders were never in that list.
Never.
Here's the number one free agent. Here's the 5 teams that person would be interested in, or whatever. Commanders were never on the list, right?
And now we're tied to everybody.
We're on a list.
Everybody.
We're on a list for everybody. Except quarterback. There isn't a position that we're not tied to if it's a big name.
Absolutely.
And the 2 big names right now are, well, I'll start with the first one. Myles Garrett. Right. He's actually asked to be traded by the Cleveland Browns. Reggie, any interest in Myles Garrett? Because you're not just gonna give him a 7th round pick. You're gonna have to give a haul for this guy. What's your level of interest, if any?
Look, man, the Commanders, I don't know what Dan Quinn and Peters plan to build his team is. Clearly, I think they want to build and take advantage of this window of opportunity with Jayden Daniels. Um, I am all in on the Myles Garrett trade. I think Myles Garrett is one of those players that even as he ages, he's still going to be a very productive individual. The key thing here is I think that may scare some people off is that he's going to want a contract extension.
Right.
And just hearing some of the people talk about it, if they, based on the 2 years I think he has left on his contract, and then they
Correct.
give him a contract extension, the extension could be around the time they would have to pay Jake Daniels. So if this thing doesn't go the way you anticipate it to go, then you can walk away and get off from under the contract, right? Or move on from Myles Garrett.
I mean, they've got 4 more years of
Jake Daniels,
Jaden Daniels, right? So if he's got if Myles Garrett has 2 years, you extend him for 2. You could, and for those that don't know, Myles Garrett is 29 years old, so you would get him, through 33 to 34 years old. I don't know when his birthday is, but it's not like you're taking him to be 37, 38 years old, right? And so from a salary cap perspective, if you think that Myles Garrett only has 4 more and you don't want to extend him past that, well, that's about the time that you're paying Jaden the big contract. So that transition money wise might not be so bad, but keep on going.
Yeah. And so to me, we can get into all the things, man, but what this guy could do for you, no team will be able to play him one-on-one, or you can't go the entire game playing him one-on-one. So he's going to demand an extra man on him. And then you could probably get pressure with the 4-man rush. And then at that point, Joe Witt can do whatever he needs to do with his defense. He'll be able to cook, basically, right?
Right.
You have to. And the thing about this request to trade, he's interested in going to a team that already has a quarterback. So that immediately puts Washington with a seat at the table.
Right.
There's some organizations out there that don't have it. We'll use the New York Giants, for example. They have a quarterback. He's not interested in going to New York. Now, I don't think he has the final say, but I think the way Cleveland is going to try to work with him and that type of deal, they're probably not going to trade him to Baltimore, for example, right? That's in the division. So there are some teams that will be eliminated just because they probably don't want to do business with them. But it's not going to come cheap. And my concern would be that if they're looking for first-round picks, Washington's not going to have top 10, top 15 picks. And so that may be the thing that makes trading to Washington a little unattractive.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the last part there. The only thing counter to that is that he does want to go to a contending team. So how many teams in the top 15 are expected to be contenders next year, right? He doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. He wouldn't have come to Washington last year, even though we were signing Jaden Daniels. He wouldn't have been interested because you don't know, right? But yeah, now is an opportunity. I don't want to overpay for Myles Garrett, and I don't know what that number is. But yes, I would. I've gotten more interested the more I've chewed on it. He is an impact player, right? He is he's a difference maker, and I've got no problem giving up this year's first round draft pick. Once you start adding more to that, I'm not saying that's all we're going to end up having to give for him, but when you start going out into the future, it makes it a little bit more challenging. Again, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying I'll be interested to see what the price ends up being on this.
This is easily going to be a player and multiple draft picks. Probably 2 firsts or a first and a second, but yeah, and a player, right? This is not going to come cheap.
Right. So
if I'm Cleveland, I don't blame them.
Well, absolutely. So when you said that the last statement there just jumped in my mind. This year's first, this year's second, and uh, Payne. Do you make that deal?
Payne or Allen, I don't care.
Well, I would think they probably want Payne more than Allen, but that would be the bigger thing that they want, right? If they had to choose between the two, I think they would take Payne.
That's fine. Pick one.
You'd be fine. Myles Garrett would be wearing burgundy and gold next year with that deal.
Let me tell you how fine I would be. You could take both of them.
Take both of them.
Take both of them. I'm not saying that to be funny. I think based on the production that we got, and if you think that they're quality enough to solidify your defensive line because you're going to lose Myles Garrett, take both of them.
I'm not laughing, and I don't think you're crazy. I don't think that deal would be put out there, but
my point being, no, they probably. I mean, the Commanders probably won't. But if you want one, I'll throw in the other one. I mean,
yeah. Well, I think for the production they've both had the last this past year and even the year before, you're saving money. You go get some other people in free agency or through the draft at half the price. Right.
I'm going to get the same amount of production out of some of these other guys that I'm getting out of Daron Payne and John Allen, and at a much cheaper cost. Because my point being is if you pair Myles Garrett with those two, right, the production you're getting out of your center, your defensive line, I can probably get paid less.
Yep.
And get the same production out of some guys that are lesser known.
Right.
So just you take them both. I'll throw in the other one for you.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of us, but would it surprise you if both of them got cut this year?
They won't, just from a contract standpoint.
One of them might be.
One might be.
One might be. And it wouldn't surprise me if one is, then one is traded, right? I don't know the value is going to be terribly high, but you trade him, get him off your books, you get a draft pick, and you move on from there.
You can trade, cut, do whatever you want to Payne and Allen, and you bring in two new guys and put the numbers 93 and 94 jerseys on there, and you would hear their name probably the same amount on game day. Okay.
For this past year, absolutely. For this past year.
So get rid of them.
So we're all on for Myles Garrett. And Reggie's, he's basically ready to give up just about anybody on the team that's not in number 5, and the kitchen sink. And we're going to remodel the facilities anyway, so you can have the kitchen sink while you're at it.
Let's go.
What about Cooper Kupp? That's another name that is being tossed around as possibly being trade bait for the Rams. Any interest in Cooper Kupp?
100%. I don't know all the details, but as I've learned a little bit more about the Cooper Kupp situation, it's advantageous for the Rams to trade him than to cut him due to financial reasons.
Correct.
The problem is the team's picking him up. It could be an issue financially, contractually.
Correct.
So most teams will probably say, "Nah, not going to trade you for it. So how about we wait till you release him?" And then when you release him, I love to have him. Because he is, even with his recent injury history that he's had and his age, he would be what Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner was to the team in the wide receiver room.
Right.
Because I think you can still get some production out of him as opposed to him being done, right? This is not, in my opinion, this is not Odell Beckham going to Miami. This is not Odell Beckham that was in Baltimore. I still think there's some juice to be squeezed out of Cooper Kupp. And I think he would be, in my mind, what they envision what a commander is. The pro on and off the field, hard worker, grinder. and they say that he's never had speed, but they say he's an excellent route runner, and I think he would be an excellent addition to this team. So I'm all in on the Cooper Kupp.
And I'm interested in Cooper Kupp as a free agent also. I think he's going to get cut. I don't think that he's because of his salary. His salary is, I think, over the next 2 years averages out to be about 27, 28.
I'm listening to you.
What's that?
I'm listening to you, but I got some breaking news when you finish your thought.
Okay. But I think that's Cooper Kupp is, he's the guy that you end up signing a 1 or 2 year contract that you can get out of if he has injury. I mean, to me, I want to give him a 2-year contract because if I have to get out of it, it doesn't hurt me financially as much. I have the guaranteed money up front. So on the back end, if he gets injured and I have to cut him after 1 year, it doesn't hurt me with as much dead money. Some kind of basically what we did with Zach Ertz, right? Do something like that, a little bit lower. But yes, I think a fairly healthy Cooper Kupp to be here for a year or two. Yeah, I'm on board.
So here's the thing. Speaking of that, it's one thing to have had some success this season and a promising young quarterback, which would make Washington an attractive destination. The fact that we went 12-5 and made it to the NFC Championship game, so we went beyond just having a good team. Now players are putting us up there as we're not far away,
right?
And people like Cooper Kupp would be interested in considering Washington, right? The fact that Myles Garrett would be interested in Washington now because they got a quarterback, but oh man, they went to the playoffs and they didn't just get in and lose one. They got to the championship game. So I think he'll be interested. He'll want to listen to what Washington has to say for sure. Yeah. But as you were talking, I mentioned, and I held up, those that are watching on YouTube, I held up my phone here, and you can see there's a breaking news here. And it's the worst kept secret, in my personal opinion.
Okay.
But I'm going to read here. Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels named the Associated Press NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year after a historic 2024 season.
Not a big surprise, but
it's official.
But it's official, right? I mean, he basically had this wrapped up week 3, week 4,
maybe week 5 or 6.
Yeah, maybe. The only thing that people were waiting to see is if is this a fluke and he couldn't keep it going. But by week 4 or 5, like if he keeps doing this, there's no way he can't win, and he pretty much did. And walk away winner.
Like I said, man, it was very anticlimactic. I think it was just more of a formality for most of us fans. We know Bo Nix played well and was trying to creep in to the discussion, man. But Jake's play, the fact that our team was winning, and then once he went to the playoffs and everything that he was doing there, it was a wrap, man. And congratulations to JD5, man. And his mama, Miss Jackson.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to get a drop for that, right?
I mean, that's her Twitter name, Miss Jackson, right?
Yeah. I promise you, next season I'll have a drop for Miss Jackson.
I don't know why, because we won't be talking about it that much.
You know what? I'll bring it up. Just once I have the drop, I'll bring it up. I'll work it in the conversation.
Thank you to JD's mom.
I'm let down that I even said that I would have the drop, because I would have liked to have just sprung it on you and just watch your reaction. I know what reaction I can see your face. I can see your laugh, your comment of me being ridiculous.
Well, if you give me something goofy, yeah.
Reggie, I don't do anything goofy.
You give me a goofy drop,
I don't do anything goofy.
Yeah, but if it's something legit, I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. You come here with something goofy, like,
yeah,
come on, man, what are we doing, kid?
But we wanted to kind of touch base and see what was going on here. Have a conversation about some of the news that was going on with the Commander's name and the coaches and all that. Also talk about the free agency and things that are going on. We're going to continue in the offseason here to have conversations. We're going to do some evaluation of. I mean, we know what our record was, right? But to break down some evaluation of different positions, our free agents, our draft picks, and see what we need to do to get better, right? We talked about that at the beginning. We're not going to have all 53 players back. You mentioned 29 free agents. Are we bringing back 29? Or are we bringing back 7? I mean, I think the number's somewhere in between, clearly, but it's an evaluation process, and that's the part of the year we're about to get into, right? For the next 4 to 6 months.
We're about to see how we're going to run it back, because it's going to be very important this offseason, because as we know, going to the playoffs and finishing second in the division, our schedule is going to be tougher. So to be able to stack the depths and of these positions and improve some key positions, whether that's through the draft and free agency, man, we're going to have to be, because we're not creeping up on anybody next year.
No.
Right. And so we're going to have to bring it, because teams are going to get up for us. I mean, we went to the NFC Championship game, man. However you want to take that, it doesn't change the fact that we were there. People have taken notice. And so when we come into the building, or they come into our building, it's to make a statement to say, hey, we beat a team that was had a chance, that was one game away from going to the Super Bowl. So we got to bring it, because people are coming for us next year.
Yeah, and we're not drafting one of the top 5 or 7 people, right? Those people are supposed to be can't miss. And look, we didn't miss with Jaden Daniels. It becomes a little trickier at 29. I mean, you need to stay true to your board, and we'll end up talking about it. But your can't misses, while they can miss, but the people that are can't miss players, your top 5, 7, 10 players, we're not part of that. It's a deep evaluation. It's being prepared, because there's no way you can tell me who we're going to pick at 29. You just can't. There's so many moving parts, people jumping up, jumping back. We might jump up. We might slide back. At 29, it's just total chaos until it gets to your pick, and you need to be prepared for everything. So we'll be here to talk about it all. Anything else you got, Reg?
That's all I got, man. Again, congratulations, JD5, man, for offensive rookie of the year. Sorry. And but we'll be back, bring you a little bit more. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you listening. And until next time, y'all, peace out.
Peace out, knuckleheads.